Imagine this, an object after traveling for maybe millions of years from some distant star just zips right through our solar system. We get a quick peek and then it's gone. And it leaves us with this huge question. Was that just a really, really weird rock? Or was it a message in a bottle from somewhere else? Well, that's the incredible scientific debate we're unpacking today. Okay, to really get this cosmic detective story, we've got to rewind a little bit, back to the very first clue. Because before the object that has everyone talking now, another strange visitor passed through our neck of the woods. And this was the one that kind of cracked the door open to the possibility that maybe, just maybe, we're not alone. So, back in 2017, something happened that had never happened before in human history. For the very first time, astronomers spotted an object that we knew for sure came from outside our solar system. They gave it the Hawaiian name Oumuamua, which means first distant messenger. A fitting name because it was unlike anything we had ever seen. And it was just a ghost. I mean, we had this tiny, tiny window, just a few weeks, to study it before it got too far away, too faint, and just vanished back into the black. It left behind this tantalizing trail of questions that nobody could answer. Everything about Oumuamua was just off. Its shape was bizarre, maybe like a cigar or a flat pancake, not your typical space rock. And as it was leaving, it sped up. But there was no comet tail, no plume of gas and dust pushing it along. So what on earth was this thing? And just like that, this one little object split the scientific community right down the middle. On one side, you had astronomers coming up with these new, really creative but natural explanations. But on the other side, a much more provocative idea started to take hold. Could this be a piece of alien technology? That disagreement set the stage perfectly for our next visitor, which was even stranger. Fast forward to 2025. Just when things had quieted down, bam, the debate just explodes all over again. A new interstellar object is discovered, 3i/Atlas. And listen, if you thought Oumuamua was weird, this thing was on a whole other level of perplexing. So the very first thing that made everyone go, wait a minute, was its path. See, Oumuamua kind of dove through a system from way up high, like a roller coaster. But Atlas, it just slid in almost perfectly flat, on the same plane as all our planets. It was a little too perfect. A wild coincidence? Or maybe a planned approach? This is where Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb, a key voice in the Oumuamua debate, comes back into the picture. He and his colleagues started putting together a list of, well, let's call them anomalies. Things that were so unusual, they argued, that we have to seriously consider that this thing wasn't natural. And look, this wasn't just one weird thing. We're talking about a dozen of them, a whole laundry list of oddities. Its path, its chemistry, its flat-out bizarre behavior. It had jets pointing towards the sun, which makes no sense. It was rich in nickel, but had very little water. And it was accelerating like crazy without showing any signs of falling apart. Okay, so you've got all these weird things happening with one object all at the same time. The big question is, what are the chances of that happening naturally, by pure luck? Well, a team of researchers ran the numbers. And the probability they came back with is, it's just mind-boggling. Yeah, to try and get your head around a number that big, one analysis came up with this analogy. Imagine rolling a 20-sided die 20 times in a row and getting the exact same number every single time. The odds of that happening are staggeringly low. And the odds of Atlas being a natural object with all its quirks, even lower. It's so improbable, it's almost impossible based on what we know. So check out this chart. What you're seeing are thousands of computer simulations trying their best to explain Atlas as a natural object. Now, if there was a plausible natural explanation, you'd see a peak somewhere on this graph, away from the left edge. But look, every single simulation, even the ones that bent the rules, is squished right up against zero. The takeaway is pretty stark. Our current science says a natural origin is statistically a near impossibility. Okay, but as the saying goes, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And for a whole lot of astronomers, the evidence for an alien probe just isn't there. They argue there's a much, much simpler explanation. So the counter-argument, and you hear this from folks at NASA, is actually pretty simple. While Atlas is definitely weird, nothing it does requires an alien explanation. In their view, it's just a very, very interesting comet. It's weird, but is it alien weird, or just a type of comet we've never seen before weird? And this is how that scientific rebuttal works.
You take each of those so-called anomalies, one by one, and look for a simpler answer. That crazy anti-tail jet pointing at the sun? It could just be a trick of the light, an optical illusion from our point of view. The weird chemistry? Well, maybe it's based on early low-quality data. And the whole idea that data is being hidden? Nope. It's all in public archives for anyone to see.
And that really brings us to the mainstream consensus. The view here isn't that we're witnessing alien tech, but that we're witnessing the limits of our own knowledge. We've really only just started looking for these interstellar visitors, so of course we're going to be surprised by the wild variety of stuff that's floating around between the stars.
So at the end of the day, where does that leave us? Well, we're left with this absolutely fascinating mystery and a scientific community locked in this profound debate. It's not just about one object anymore. It's about our place in the entire cosmos. And this debate isn't just happening in university labs. It has spilled out everywhere. You can see the exact same split playing out in public forums online. Some people are convinced it's just a very interesting rock. But others are pointing out that the probability of that is so low, you have to at least consider the alternative. Ultimately, it really all boils down to this one question. Which story do you find more plausible? On one hand, you have an unbelievable statistical miracle, a one in a gazillion fluke of nature. And on the other hand, you have an extraordinary claim that would literally change everything we think we know about the universe. And that's really the provocative thought we want to leave you with. When something strange and unknown comes knocking from the stars, what should our first thought be? Should our default assumption be that it's just a crazy coincidence? Or should we dare to consider that it might be an extraordinary intelligence? It's a question that forces us to think about how we search for life and what we'll do if we ever actually find it.